Hi guys, so today I'll be showing you how I made these three watercolor thumbnail paintings using 6 watercolor techniques that are easy to learn for beginners. Okay, so you're going to need 2 jars of water. I have one that's my dirty jar and my cleaner jar, so that way when you need to mix a new color, it's not muddy. And this is my 45 pan. Um, I also just taped off for a grid here so that everything's separated and clean. Okay, so the first technique I'm going to do is layering transparencies of a different shade. So I'm first putting down the lightest shade, and usually with watercolor and layering transparency, you want to put down your lightest shade and then go in with your darker shades over top. So that's what I'm doing here. So the second technique that I'm going to be doing is stippling. I just put down some water to wet the paper, and then I put down a flat layer, and I used a semi-dry brush with pretty dry pigment and just stippled it onto the paper. The technique I'm showing is how to show distance through lighter layers. So I did a very quick sketch of tree lines, and I filled out the farthest layer with the lightest color, so the least amount of pigment and the most water. And then as I go down, the pigment to water ratio gets thicker, so there's more pigment in the water. So it gets darker as it goes down, and that is how we show distance. This technique is one of my favorites. You'll need masking liquid, which you can find at any art store. I'm just using a brush here to lay down lines that I want to keep white. And once the masking liquid dries, and you have to make sure that it's completely dry before you paint, you can paint over it and it'll go right over. And here you can see there's like a slight sheen of the dry masking liquid. It was hard to show up on camera. And then my camera died. So I didn't catch me painting, but I was just putting down a blue layer because I was thinking of waves. And I just put more concentrated blue towards the top of each section. So once your paint is dry, you can start peeling the masking liquid off. Um, you can use a tweezer, but I have long nails, so I just use my nails. Or you can like very gently rub at it to get it started, and then you just pull at it. And don't worry, it's not going to rip your paper. For the next panel, I put down some colors. I wet the paper first and then put wet paint on it. Um, and you're going to want to leave this slightly wet, so there should still be like a sheen to the top of the paper, but not completely drenched in water. Um, and you're going to need salt. You can use any type of table salt basically. And then you're just going to pinch it and put it on any part of the paint that you want to create bursts on. Um, Once your paint is dry, you're going to want to gently rub the salt off. If you want to speed up the drying process, you can use a hairdryer or a heat gun. Just make sure that you're using it on a low setting or far away from the paper so that your paint doesn't go everywhere. For the last technique, I'm showing blowing and splattering. So I'm laying down lots of different colors, wet on wet, and then I just started blowing manually. And if it gets everywhere, it's kind of okay because it's watercolor, so it's pretty easy to clean up. If you want like a smaller burst, you can use a straw and blow through the straw, and you'll get a smaller blow, and there'll be more like individual lines that come out of it. And I started using a hairdryer just to get a bigger effect. Just be conscious of where the water is going. And then for splattering, it's pretty easy. You just take a dry brush, dip it in paint, and use your thumb to flick it. So, going back to the 3 paintings that I made that I showed at the beginning of this video, I used some of the techniques, not every single one, but you can definitely use all of these techniques in your paintings. In the first one, I used mainly the monochromatic technique to create an illusion of distance and the scenery, and I also used a bit of stippling in between each section to make it more interesting. And then in the second thumbnail, I mainly used overlayering to do the hair and also part of the under eyes. And in the last thumbnail, I used mainly blowing and splattering to mesh the two figures together. Usually, for example, if I use masking liquid, I usually use it for highlights or spaces of white on figures, as well as creating backgrounds like the water that I created for the thumbnail. And then salt, I also use it on skin to create a really weird effect, and in backgrounds. So you can definitely use all of these techniques, and they're very easy to learn as beginners. And that's it. Thank you for watching and listening to me. I hope that these techniques are of use to you.